certain message of our culture to the cross community too. So we have to think beyond it, because we think the people abroad, our Indian brothers abroad, are already preserving our culture. Because what is happening is, the outburst of knowledge. Because of the fastness technology of communication, we are receiving knowledge of every country, so many cultures, that this outburst of knowledge is not being taken by the media or by the Western people. Even we are also not able to understand which is right, which is wrong, who is right, who is wrong. So that is why the whole fight is going on. If you look at the media, what is media is doing? Media is
Honorable Minister NB Sushma Swaraj, Mr. Ved Vaidik, Yash Chopra ji, Subhash ji, Shabana ji, Chopra ji, my friends, peers, and the audience. Before we expound the qualities of our cultural heritage, what we have achieved, I think it's very important we all sit down together, probably another seminar, a briefer, shorter, more specific one, where we all sit down and decide what we are going to do about it, because all that we have discussed here we already know. The numbers, the ethnic diversity, our culture, and when I hear the word culture, it's a very dubious term. I can't use a broad spectrum analogy to say the word culture, because like fashion, it keeps changing over the years. And it has changed, and it will change. And technology will bring about more change. Those who stick by it and say that it will never change will be left behind or will have to change. So this is the order of the world. I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about yesterday and what will be tomorrow. And right now, instead of going into terrains which does not pertain to my limited knowledge, like I know about my industry a little bit. I'm still confused. I don't know what films will run. There's proof of that, because whenever I'm nervous, the pictures seem to do well. When I'm very overconfident, they don't seem to do well. So I don't know, like everybody else. So with that confession, let me go forward to expound my theory, which is strictly mine, and probably a few peers would agree with me, is that we have to corporatize and vertically integrate whatever form, whatever cultural technique we use. We need not have to copy the West absolutely without thinking about how it will integrate into our, I have to use the famous word again, culture. And but we have to formulate an idea, some kind of a new Shastra has to be formed, and we have to sit together and do it, formulate it. I'm sure the learned members of the ministry would sit down and formulate an idea. It has to be done soon. And before we talk of Indian cinema entering the world arena, we'll have to first see whom we are catering to. When we talk about the world cinema, we're talking about the world itself, not me.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to be sharing this historic occasion with you all this afternoon. This assembly of the diaspora is undoubtedly the first of its kind to be held anywhere, a unique assemblage of people of Indian origin from across the globe. Of the words of India's esteemed leader and first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who in his book, Discovery of India, ponders on the heritage that is India. And I quote, "Though outwardly there was diversity and infinite variety among our people, everywhere there was that tremendous impress of oneness which had held all of us together for ages past, whatever political fate or misfortune had befallen us. The unity of India was no longer merely an intellectual conception for me. It was an emotional experience which overpowered me. That essential unity had been so powerful that no political division, no disaster or catastrophe had been able to overcome it." And he goes on to add, "Some kind of a dream of unity had occupied the mind of India. That unity was not conceived as something imposed from outside. It was something deeper and within its fold. The widest tolerance of belief and custom was practiced, and every variety acknowledged and even encouraged," unquote. Nehruji was talking of geographical India within the boundaries of the subcontinent as we know it. But I believe that the same sentiments hold true of the entire diaspora much beyond the boundaries of India. We in the diaspora, ladies and gentlemen, are linked to our ancestral land through deep bonds of emotion, spirituality, and culture. We may have grown up in different environments, experienced different political fates.
It is a privilege to be here and a special privilege to follow Professor Amartya Sen. Indian Pravasis span the globe today, excelling in all walks of life. And as I travel around the world, I'm amazed and proud to find Indians everywhere, even in the remotest of cities. What strikes me about them is their strong drive, their spirit, their achievements against all odds, their commitment to their family, and above all, their yearning for India. Most of them have a strong desire to give something back in small and big ways. It is that same urge to give back that has inspired my own involvement with India since I left 32 years ago. I've always received many times more than I've been able to give. It has been a labor of love that is very rewarding in itself. For me, the award of the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman by the Prime Minister this morning is a recognition of the substantial contributions of the ever-expanding Indian diaspora. On behalf of all Pravasis, I'm honored to receive this award, and I hope that it will provide inspiration for future generations of Pravasis to give back to India. Despite all the good intentions, Indian Pravasis have often been criticized for not doing enough for their country of origin. We are seen as having fallen short of the kind of contributions that other expatriate communities, like the Chinese or the Jewish, for example, have made to their home countries. There are many reasons for this, and several recommendations are being made to rectify this, such as creating a federation of Indian communities around the world. I heartily endorse all such initiatives. But you can read about all of this and more in a monograph titled Indians Without Borders that my colleagues have prepared and which is available here today. But what I really want to talk about is the diaspora as a community and how to build this larger community, this extended family.
Thank you very much. Another perspective, a little different perspective about a country that needs our synergy. We do have few important speakers coming up. We turn now to a person whose name is synonymous with the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, Ms. Fatima Mir, now Director of the Institute for Black Research, South Africa. Please welcome Mrs. Mir. She would be speaking. Yeah. She could speak from where she is. That would be all right. Thank you. Microphone.
Congregation hails. I am proud to be related to all these countries and particularly to India, whom we have always referred to as Mother India. We have always seen ourselves in South Africa as children of India, not only those of us who have originated from India, but also others who have not originated from India, but who have been related to India in the great struggle against colonialism, a struggle which was initiated in the world by Gandhi, who came to South Africa as a very young man, inexperienced in many ways, even in the practice of his own profession, law. It was in South Africa that he sharpened his teeth in so many different respects. And it was in South Africa that his philosophy of satyagraha was born. And I am particularly proud to say that it was a philosophy to which we contributed actively, both in thought and in action. And that is, we South Africans, not only Indian South Africans, but also African South Africans, because 2 passive resistance or satyagraha campaigns were launched by Mr. Gandhi. I refer to him deliberately as Mr. Gandhi because that is what he was at that time historically. It was only on this day, at least a century back, when he returned to this country, that the mantle of Mahatma was sprayed on him, a mantle against which he, in all his humility, always protested against. Now here,
friends, I feel very privileged to be here. It's a wonderful occasion when the diaspora of India from all over the world can get together and interact with each other, exchanging our ideas and our concerns in India itself. I'm, of course, also happy that so many of my friends are here, because Amit Mitra happens to be an old student of mine, and there are many other friends here, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity of speaking to you today. I think there is no question in our mind that we are proud of being Indian. We are Indians in different ways. Some of us, like myself, remain exclusively Indian citizens. Others may have a different citizenship, but still have the sense of belonging to India and being Indian. And there is a kind of variety in that, which is also part of the variety, part of the diversity, about which I think the former Prime Minister Ujjwal Dosanjh was speaking, and when he was mentioning the need to celebrate the diversities that we happen to have. I think it's very important at this time when we ask the question, we are proud of being Indian, what are we proud of? What is it that makes us proud of India? I think we can take many different answers. It's a country with very diverse achievements, enormously rich history, and we can choose different parts of our tradition, our heritage, to anchor our pride in. I would particularly emphasize the tradition and the culture and the civilization of openness, for which India, I think, can be legitimately proud. And I want to see that openness in different perspectives. I would like to distinguish between internal openness, what I would call inclusiveness. I'd like to emphasize our dialogic openness, that when we disagree, we are willing to have a dialogue on it and discuss, and we often would disagree, and that's the nature of the human mind. And I would also like to emphasize our interactive openness, by which we don't place ourselves in a corner, even with a rich civilization trying to cultivate on its own, but we see ourselves as a part of the world with which we ought to and have good reason to interrelate and interact. Now, I'll concentrate primarily on the last in the 15 minutes that I've been given to speak, but I will make brief mention of the first two also. As far as the internal openness or inclusiveness is concerned, I think it's a point which has already been mentioned by previous speakers, including the former Premier from Canada, as well as the former Prime Minister from Fiji, that we have to think of celebrating being India not as being a part of one part of it, which is in some ways exclusive from the rest. So we don't celebrate being Hindus or Muslims or Christians or Sikhs or Jains or Parsis or our tradition is one of seeing ourselves as Indians, and that of course does not mean that we don't have different religious views, we don't have different literary tastes, we have many languages, we have...
In 1520, he went to the world, and when he came to Yemen, a port of Aden, he has written in his book, and I quote, कि वहाँ एडन के अंदर फिशरमैन और थोड़े हिंदू बनियाज रहते हैं, उसका मतलब ट्रेडर फ्रॉम गुजराती. This is the oldest record of the Indian diaspora in 1520. Since then, the contemporary business with Europe is done only to the Middle East. We are 4 million people there. On our money or economy, the country has survived. Out of 4 million, 70% are semi-skilled workers, skilled workers, laborers, bearing little expense. Their total money they are sending to this country. If you take very roughly 400 riyal or 400 dirham per month per person, we are sending 14 billion rupees to India since 1979. But unfortunately, we always get injustice. आप लोग ने साहब गोल्डन प्लेट में पीआईओ काट दिया, उसने क्यों लिया हो तो आज तक मैं नहीं समझता हूं कि क्यों नहीं लिया. तो आपने उनको ड्यूअल नेशनलिटी दी. 10 साल से मैं फाइट कर रहा हूं.
Leadership is performance. Leadership is consistent behavior. Leadership is trustworthiness. Friends, we know leadership means there is no substitute for excellence. There is no tolerance of mediocrity. And for heaven's sake, there is no compromise with integrity.
USA.
telephonic structure of India during his